Join the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.
Welcome to the Scottish Football Zone this afternoon. We are looking back and looking forward to one more game in the Scottish Cup tonight. It's a weird time for our Scottish Cup tie, 7:30. It's and we'll get to that. We'll get to all the games as well at the weekend as well. There was a couple of cancellations in there as well. Joined by Ethan to look back at the game today at Ibrox and also the games yesterday and Friday and of course tonight as well. Just to let you know, just in case you haven't saw it or whatever, Rangers were very impressive this afternoon. Rangers won 8-0 against Queen's Park, and all the talk before the game was could it happen again? Well, it couldn't because Rangers were dominant from the word go. Before we get to that game, the Aberdeen Murrow game was called off yesterday out of Dundee United and Spartans, and the Aberdeen game has now been played on Wednesday, the 18th of February. And Dundee United the night before, 17th of February against Spartans. So there you go. So as I say, Rangers 8, Queen's Park now today. Rangers were dominant, Ethan.
Yeah, they were, and I haven't seen any of the game, but I don't think you need to see an 8-0 scoreline to think how the game possibly went. And yeah, there was a few Rangers players obviously still in the dressing room from that defeat a couple managers ago, obviously under Philip Clement last season to Queen's Park, and I imagine there was a few Rangers fans going to the game today with a little bit of nerves and with that on their mind. And I think it shows that the Rangers players and Danny Rowe, probably looking back at the previous result, I'm sure he was made aware of it, that we're going to take our frustration out in Queen's Park and let them remember why we're Rangers Football Club and why you're Queen's Park. And yeah, it's obviously not been a great week at all for Queen's Park. They lost to Ross County and dropped to the bottom of the Championship, and then obviously thrashed Ibrox. But really good outing from Rangers. Don't think you can ever take too much from these games against lower league opposition, but a Championship side that obviously they were in a similar position last season and came to Ibrox and win. So these things are never formalities and should be taken that way. And Rangers obviously didn't take it that way. Obviously, there's lots of positives and even who scored. Ryan Nadiri getting 2 on his full debut. So that's obviously a great start for him coming in for the money, and that'll take a little bit of weight off in him and Danny Rowe's shoulders for bringing him in for what we all called a pretty high price from the league he was playing in. Miovski getting a goal will be good for his confidence, you would think. His 4th now in 2 Scottish Cup games, obviously get the hat-trick in the last round. Chukwueze getting his first goal for Rangers as well. And then James Tavernier getting a first-half hat-trick, which I think it's the first time James Tavernier scored a hat-trick for Rangers, which is surprising considering how many goals he has scored for the club. But yeah, I think that the last time I remember him getting close to a hat-trick was the game, I think it's probably quite an infamous game, was Rangers v St Mirren, I think it was, where Rangers were awarded 4 penalties. And I think he scored 2 of them, gave one to Jermaine Defoe and then missed the other one, so he'd only scored twice, but obviously he only needed the 1 penalty today to get his first hat-trick for Rangers. So yeah, a remarkable achievement for him, and just keeps adding to his long list of goals and assists, because I believe he had 2 assists, or only one he's credited with in front of me here, but I've seen someone saying 2 assists. So yeah, an excellent one for Rangers, and they can maybe wipe out the disappointing drop points against Hibs now with 2 really positive wins over Kilmarnock and now Queen's Park.
It's one of these ones, Ethan, that when the big guns go up against a Championship 1 side or League 1 side, that and a hiding to nothing basically, because if Queen's Park beat them today, they're like that. Well, imagine getting beat off for Queen's Park, and then, but in the same token, Rangers won 8-0 today, and people say that, well, it's only Queen's Park you were playing, so Rangers were in a kind of no-win situation here today.
Yeah, exactly that, and they done what was necessary in a really convincing way, and I think the Rangers fans will take a lot of confidence from it, because we all have addressed that what we think Rangers struggle with the most is creativity and finding sort of chances on a regular basis to score goals, and they must have found a lot of chances today if they put the ball in the back of the net 8 times. I know that the caveat's going to be it's against the Championship team, but that'll give the players confidence of being in the right positions. Maybe they have found the number 9 they need in Ryan Nadiri if he's scoring twice on his full debut. And yeah, I think it's positives all round for Rangers. And you look at the starting 11 for Rangers. I don't know if that's not full strength, I would say, Rangers, but it's not really far off it. It's almost every player in there is probably valued over £1 million. It's always going to be an uphill task for Sean Crichton and his players. So yeah, a difficult one to take, and the players that were there for the historic match last season obviously would have expected maybe that they're going to be in for a tougher challenge this time around, because I think Rangers are in a better place, and of course they would have wanted to inflict revenge on the oldest club in Scotland. So yeah, unfortunate day for Queen's Park, but ultimately it lets them focus on league football now, which they do need to do, because they're in a really difficult position in the Championship.
And I think the only thing Queen's Park could take out of the game, Ethan, is like a big payday in terms of when you get the Scottish Cup, it's like half the gate, and also they get the TV, half of the TV money as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what Sean Crichton and that the Queen's Park fans were hoping for, but I think maybe they were hoping for, maybe they were hoping for a kind of like tighter game. I mean, tighter game as in, 3-0, 3-1, but not 8-0.
Yeah, no, exactly that. And that's it. You can never expect a Championship team to turn over at Celtic or Rangers, because they're just never really going to be in a scenario, no matter how poor Celtic and Rangers have been at points this season, and they're possibly maybe coming to the peak of their powers or somewhere or thereabouts. You still expect them to beat any team in that Championship, and that's the way it should be. But I think there would have been Queen's Park fans going to the game hoping that they can show that despite their league form and despite their league position, that they're still a decent team with decent players. And unfortunately, they couldn't show that today based on the scoreline. I mean, as you said, they probably just wanted a closer game, maybe to get a goal to celebrate Ibrox. Is always one I think teams set out for as well. So yeah, it was maybe a little bit of, obviously I think the Rangers fans would have enjoyed it, but it sort of was a wee bit of a change from the other ties, because they've all been very closely contested so far, and that was the I know we've got 2 cancellations, the games you mentioned that'll be scheduled I think a week on Tuesday and Wednesday. So yeah, the games are obviously to look forward to as well. Both having Premiership teams in them. Of course, the Aberdeen Motherwell having 2 Premiership teams in them, but all the games so far were really close before that, and I think some people have possibly picked out Stenhousemuir Falkirk as the sort of local derby, and maybe one of the ties of the round, because how well Stenhousemuir are doing, of course how well Falkirk are doing. So that'll be a really entertaining game later on. I'm looking forward to it.
See, when you take the game today in isolation, 8-0, I mean, what will that do for Queen's Park confidence, but also what will that do for Rangers title hopes? Because obviously they're away to Motherwell on Wednesday night, and then they've got Hearts next Saturday and next Sunday, whereas Queen's Park are fighting for their life at the bottom of the Championship.
Yeah, exactly that. The only maybe upside for Queen's Park is that the team they play next is Ross County at Dingwall, despite the fact it was the last league game, and I'd imagine that was one that was rearranged to weather issues. But yeah, losing to Ross County, and Stuart Kettlewell seems to have done a decent job since coming back to Ross County, obviously dragged them off the bottom, and that seems like a game they really need to win, because if they lose that, then it looks like they're really going to be in the well, could you say driving seat for relegation. The favourites certainly for relegation in the Championship, which is not where they want to be. They want to stay in the division, and maybe I don't know. It's difficult to take positives on a day like this for Queen's Park, but they can't have expected to go to Ibrox and win again. And unfortunately, they were nowhere close. I mean, they couldn't have been further away from winning the match today, but that's just how things fall sometimes. And I think they still would have, if you had offered them to lose, to play Rangers in back-to-back years in the Scottish Cup, lose one of the games 8-0 but win the other game, I think they probably still would have taken that, and the fans would have still taken that, because this is one of the biggest upsets in Scottish Cup history, right next to Celtic and Inverness and stuff like that. So yeah, but I don't think that this will overshadow that, but yeah, it's going to be really difficult for Crichton to turn those players' head around and get them up and confident again for that massive trip to Dingwall, which seems like an early relegation 6-pointer, which if they lose, then I've got to say it seems a long way back for them.
Yeah, I mean, are those Rangers, they look very impressive, but as you say, it's the you couldn't really take anything out of the game. Only if you were a Rangers fan, you would be delighted to win 8-0, and that just carries on the feel good factor at Ibrox at the moment under Danny Rowe.
Yeah, exactly that, and obviously they scored. What was it? Was it 5? Yeah, it was 5 goals against Kilmarnock. The other caveat is obviously the red card. So, but you can't knock scoring 13 goals in 2 games against any opposition. That's always good, and especially when they were struggling to score goals against Hibs, and some people said that they could have played 90 minutes and not scored at Easter Road. So that's a change, that they are being able to find the net in a regular basis, and that'll breed confidence into the attacking players that they can find themselves in the right positions and put the ball in the back of the net. So yeah, really positive for Rangers before 2 massive games as well, because if you needed confidence, or you were lacking the confidence to score goals, Motherwell are not a team you want to play against, because their defensive record this season's been excellent. Possibly, I've said it a few times, the best defence in the league. Certainly recently they have been, with the amount of clean sheets they've racked up. So yeah, the Rangers will feel a lot more confident. Both the fans, the players, and maybe Danny Rowe and his team's ability to go to Fir Park and not only get a goal but get possibly a win, which would be a massive statement towards the title race. And then obviously the game, the following match on the Sunday needs no further explanation to the stakes of it.
I think as well, I don't know about you, but I don't know if Danny Rowe will make changes to the team. It'll be a bit unfair if he drops the players out, any players out that team today. But, that Rangers has got a big squad now.
Yeah, it is, and it seems like they've got some players that come in today. Obviously, as I said, I didn't get to watch the game, so I don't know how well these players that have come in played. Obviously, Liam Kelly comes in as the cup goalkeeper. That'll be one you expect to go back to Jack Butland. Dujon Sterling came off at half time, which he might be injured again, which is obviously not good, because he's seemed to suffer with that his whole career being at Rangers. It's unfortunate. The new left back, who obviously played against Kilmarnock, to Romans, he looks like he's impressed so far. Comes off at the hour again, probably still trying to get his match sharpness up. Oliver Antman starts today. He's one that I don't imagine would be in the first 11. You've got the main players I think that are probably looking to come back in are your let's say Mikey Moore's probably going to come back into the starting 11, Jack Butland, and then probably Nicholas Raskin as well. But I think Chukwueze and Raskin's possibly his favourite midfield, and behind Taylor Asgard as well. But he seemed to play a 4-4-2 today, certainly to start with, before he brought Bayrami on for Dujon Sterling, which might have suggested he went to a back three. But a 4-4-2 is a bit of a switch up from Danny Rose, so maybe that caught Queen's Park off guard in that sense, that we're expecting to play against what most of the time we've seen him play a back three, a back five. He's very versatile in what he wants to do with his Rangers players, but to start the match with a 4-4-2 was something I didn't expect to see, and I don't know if that's the way it actually played out, because looking at the formation here doesn't really tell the whole story unless you watch the match. I do know that, but yeah, that just shows that he's willing to switch things up and try things and keep the opposing managers on their toes.
There you go. So final score for my books: Rangers 8, Queen's Park now. A very impressive Rangers today. As Ethan alluded to a moment ago, we've got a derby in the cup. You could argue the point that we had maybe 2 derbies in the cup, Dunfermline and Kelty Hearts, but the derby tonight, Skinrar against Falkirk. Sorry, Skin is Muir against Falkirk. Local derby. We are kick-off time 7:30, even on the old plastic park as well. So we spoke about this game on Friday. What do you think of the game tonight?
I think it's a really brilliantly set up tie with how well Stenhousemuir have done this season. Obviously, right up the upper echelons of League One. They had that loss to Inverness, but that was obviously in the Challenge Cup. But that would have gave Cali Thistle a big psychological boost as the 2 favourites to go for that League One trophy, and Stenhousemuir getting into the Championship would be an excellent achievement for them as a club, and I think they're going to be in it right until the end of this League One season. And then they've also made really good progress in the League Cup, the Scottish Cup, as well. They obviously smashed Greenock Morton 4-0 in the last round, which was an excellent result. And for Falkirk, they've just been keep getting excellent results. I know they've lost to Celtic twice, but it seems like Martin O'Neill is just what we'll get on to it, but it seems like Martin O'Neill's working some magic at Celtic to keep getting the results. He has been, I think it's 16 games or 17 games and 14 wins, 2 draws and 1 loss or something like that. And the loss came away to Michelin, the draws coming against Hearts and Bologna away, obviously, in Europe. So we'll get on to that, but there's no shame in losing to Celtic. It's a newly promoted team, obviously. But I think we spoke about last week the sort of weird record that Falkirk had against Livingston, where they just seemed like no matter Falkirk having the dominance in the Premiership this season and winning the Championship last season, just couldn't beat Livingston. They obviously done that last week. So, yeah, I think Falkirk are in an excellent place, and I do expect John McGlynn's team to win this tie, but I don't think Stenhousemuir are going to make it very easy for them at all. I could see Stenhousemuir maybe getting a goal. If they were to get the opening goal, it'd make it a really interesting tie, and I'm just really looking forward to it. It's always good to see 2 foreign teams in different leagues going up against each other, especially in a local derby as well, and hopefully it plays out that way, and it's a really good cup tie.
There you go, Stenhousemuir against Falkirk, not Skinbar. Stenhousemuir against Falkirk at 7:30 tonight. On the Google BBC. Ethan, you alluded to it there. Celtic 1, Dundee 1. Celtic 1 2-1 after extra time, and you could say that this was a kind of a good old-fashioned cup tie, because obviously Dundee defended well, especially when they went 1-0 up and 10 minutes to go. They Celtic basically flew the kits and sink at Dundee, and Dundee defended it well. So, first of all, before we get the game, and I know you were at the game, and Friday we were talking about this, are you a boycott person?
Oh yeah, I was going to go to the game tomorrow, but my dad couldn't make it, so I wasn't too bothered about going. So I just watched it on the telly, and yeah, well maybe glad in some ways that I stayed at home, because I didn't think the Celtic performance was excellent, as a lot of people probably didn't. But at least I didn't go to the game and then leave the final minutes, because obviously the Premier Sports showed a few Celtic fans leaving before the game was done, and then obviously Celtic get that equaliser deep into injury time, which I think some people found quite controversial. The timing of it, I think, if you watch it back, Kieran Tierney was down with that really nasty kick he got in the face. So hopefully he's okay. He was up and smiling after the game, much like he was obviously after that memorable Scottish Cup win over Aberdeen, when he had to go to the famous story of going to the dentist and then running back to lift the trophy at the end. So yeah, I think it wasn't excellent from Celtic and Dundee, and credit to Stephen Presley. They made it really difficult for Celtic to find any rhythm in the game, any flow. It was lethargic, and I predicted last week that Celtic would drop points against Falkirk because of the amount of minutes they played, and I think that was a solid performance from Celtic. Not brilliant again, but it was good enough. This week it seemed even worse, and maybe the minutes were catching up to the legs of those Celtic players that have played 90 minutes after 90 minutes after 90 minutes. And I know Martin O'Neill made a few changes. We got to see some of the new signings, some to great effect, some to less so. But sometimes in the Scottish Cup, it's about getting the job done, especially against a Premiership opposition, and that's what Celtic done.
Yep, and also Celtic's got a new player till the end of the season with an option to buy Oxlade Chamberlain as well. But I mean, it wouldn't be a Scottish Cup tie without two controversial incidents. The kick on Tierney, do you think that was a red card? And also, do you think Celtic had a penalty as well?
Yeah, well, I would start on the red card incident, or the Kieran Tierney kick in the face, as I referred it to by Cameron Congreve. I don't want to see that as a red card. I think Kieran Tierney's he's coming down to sort of head the ball, and Congreve, it's a bit careless from him because he's throwing his legs high in a dangerous position. I get that, and it's caused Tierney a pretty nasty injury where Celtic had to use the concussion substitution, which I think is a good protocol. We obviously seen Celtic make 6 in 90 minutes, which is something you don't usually see, but that's what the protocol's for. And yeah, I think I'd like to see that as a yellow card, but understand why Celtic fans think it should be a red, because if you remember back a few seasons ago, and this one is always used as a sort of benchmark, the Yang red card at Tynecastle, where I think his foot was maybe a little bit higher, but I don't think he even made contact with a Hearts player. And if you're asking me what's more of a offence or a foul, having your foot a bit higher and not making contact, or having your foot a bit lower and kicking somebody in the face, then I don't think that's really up for debate. But yeah, I'd like to see that as kept as a yellow card, because I'm always for trying to keep 22 players on the pitch. Going to the penalty, I think Michael Stewart actually really done excellent to point it out. He pointed it out straight away and said, I think this might be a penalty here. And at first I didn't think much of it, but then watching back the replays, you can see that the pushes starts outside the area, but Thomas Chivanchara has his foot in the box or on the line by the time that the push is done and by the time he's sent to the ground. So I think that should have been a penalty. I don't really understand how they came to the conclusion of not giving it as a penalty. So yeah, I think Celtic were really unlucky in that way, and if they'd got that penalty, it might have been a completely different game. Obviously, hypotheticals, and shouldn't take any credit away from Dundee, but it felt like one of those games where nothing was going to fall for Celtic, and then they obviously get the goal with the very last kick of the ball. There was also one where I don't know if you remember, where it was a cross in from the right-hand side. I think it was Julian Araujo, and the linesman blew for the ball going out, and Celtic had the ball in the net. Obviously, Dundee had sort of stopped playing, but I don't know. It just seemed like it it wasn't going to be Celtic staying that way, and then obviously they get the goal, and over the added time they showed on the board, and it's caused a bit of frustration between some fans, but I think it was pretty fair, and then Celtic get the goal, obviously like a minute into extra time, and then it's a really uphill battle from Dundee from there on tired legs.
Yeah, I mean, every week we come on the show, even it's the people might be sick of us saying it, but it's two inconsistencies again from the kind of like match officials as well. Because I remember a few seasons ago, I think it was involving Rangers, the same kind of incident, and I can't remember. I think it was Tavernier fell into the box and they got a penalty for that, So, I mean, I don't know what the difference is between that and the one yesterday, but there you go. What do you make? I mean, obviously Dundee's out the cup now. Everybody says that, what can they take out of the cup? Nothing, because they're out of the cup, and then they concentrate in the league. But they done everything right last night. What a goal they scored as well in the second half. You could say maybe from a Celtic, the defence was pretty poor as well, but the Dundee guy still had to get the job done. They done it well. What could Stephen Presley and Dundee take out that game to finish the league campaign off?
I think they can take a lot of confidence from the game, and I think that's what Stephen Presley and these players will do. These results are always difficult to take, the way it sort of fell with the last-minute equaliser to force extra time, and when that happens, it's so difficult for the team that are defending on the back foot to really go again and get a winning goal, and that's why Celtic were always going to be the favourites at that point to go on and win it. But I think Stephen Presley said it after the game that it was almost a perfect performance from Dundee, and it really was. They played really well. They nullified Celtic and didn't let Celtic create many chances at all. I don't remember Celtic really sort of hammering down John McCracken's goal, and they had some standouts as well. I thought Bradley Halliday was really solid at right back, although I will say I've noticed he's quite one for the theatrics. He went down from a push off Sebastian Tedeschi, and then he was the one that went down and the challenge of Jake Young that got the St Mirren player sent off the other week, which I thought was quite soft. Ethan Hamilton in midfield was excellent. He took his goal really well, as you said. It was an excellent strike. I don't think Yami Sinisawa had any real chance with it. Tony Egan, who's been excellent all season, and I think the wings has been a really strong area for Dundee, both Egan and Cameron Congreve, who got the assist. I thought they were both really good again. Obviously, we got to see Joel Cotterill for the second time, and the first time seeing him in a 90-minute or a live game rather. I thought he was okay. The loanee they brought in, Jan Danda, showed his quality and points. Simon Murray, without scoring, he's found it really difficult this season, was putting pressure on the Celtic defence as he always does. So yeah, I think there's a lot of positives to take from the game for Stephen Presley and Dundee, and they'll be confident that they can. I think the priority is still for Dundee to stay in the division because a lot of people tipped them for relegation, but I think Stephen Presley's done an excellent job, and I think everyone's recognising that now. On the Celtic side, there was less positives to be taken from the game, I think. If you're asking me to pick out someone who performed really that well, I'd probably be struggling, certainly from the starters. Not a great start for Joel Mvuka. I think there's been scepticism tied to his signing since the start of it being rumoured. His goal record isn't great, and obviously that's not the be-all and end-all of a player. But Celtic fans were certainly looking at that and a wee bit puzzled. And then obviously the medical debacle, looks like he's failed his medical, and then he comes in on a loan to buy, and then he starts this game. He had a few decent touches, but he was rather unimpressive. And then obviously gets hooked at half time, which is must be not a great debut at all. Getting hooked at half time. I don't know where his fitness lies, so maybe that was involved, but yeah, Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney obviously didn't like what they seen from him in that first half, and then James Forrest comes on, not to much greater effect. He also brought Benjamin Negrin on for Paulo Bernardo, who again failed to really seize the opportunity in that Celtic team. But I thought that the player who won Celtic the game ultimately was Sebastian Tenecki. I thought he was really positive when he came on, and he's been really inconsistent, and wingers are. But his end product for both the first goal with the nice bit of skill, and then the pass across to Junior Adama, who's an absolute excellent finish. Obviously, he came off the bench with 10 minutes to go to make his debut, and what an impact. I don't think he barely touched the ball before he scored, but it's a really smart finish, and well left by Julian Araujo at the back post, who might have been offside had he smashed the ball into the back of the net. And then Sebastian Tenecki does well for his second. Or for his first goal rather than Celtic's second. So I think that's the only positive Celtic can take, and that's what happens. You get players that are maybe as Fozzie would say, with coasting. But when you sign players and bring in quality, then it challenges the players that are there to up their game, because they know there's players behind them that are going to challenge for their possession. And I think that's what you've seen with Sebastian Tenecki. And I think you mentioned that Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain obviously confirmed now, and I did watch his sort of, what would you say, interview, and he spoke really well. He seems up for the challenge, and I think he'll be an excellent player for Celtic if obviously he can stay fit, which has been the big thing throughout his career. But yeah, massive talent, and I could see him helping Celtic a lot between now and the end of the season. I don't know if there was I haven't seen or heard if there was much with why Dyson Maeda and Arne Engels weren't in the squad. I believe it's probably just been rested, but maybe that's one to look out for as two of Celtic's key players. But not a great performance from Celtic, a really positive performance barring the result from Dundee, but Celtic ultimately get the job done, and that's sometimes what you need to do in the Scottish Cup.
And we should say that Oxlade-Chamberlain's here until the end of the season with an option to buy. So let's watch that one. Celtic 2, Dundee 1 after extra time, 1 each after 90 minutes indeed. Let's go back to Friday night. It seems like ages ago now, but it was Airdrie 1, St Mirren 1, St Mirren 1 2-1 on 2-1 after extra time. And I don't know about you, Ethan, right? But I done the show on Tuesday night, and I done the show on Friday night as well. About surely that result against Hearts will give St Mirren confidence. But I don't know about you if you saw any of the game on Friday night. But I thought St Mirren was looking very flat in the game, and it wasn't really a kind of brilliant game as such. I was looking forward to the game, obviously, but it didn't live up to its hypes. But I mean, all you could say is St Mirren's in the net ring of the cup.
Yeah, that's that, and that's maybe all that matters. We know St Mirren have struggled all season to find the back of the net. We've even seen that despite getting the goal in the win over Hearts, and Airdrie have obviously been a team struggling also in the Championship. So yeah, it wasn't going to be an easy task for Stephen Robinson's team to go there and win. They obviously get the pretty early goal through Jacob Devaney, who I thought was excellent against Hearts, and looks like it's going to be a really promising player for the young Man United loanee. And then the game sort of, I didn't watch much of it. I listened to bits on the radio, and but Airdrie made a decent game. St Mirren, I would say, had the better of it. But then obviously Airdrie get the equaliser for Ewan Henderson, and then you think St Mirren going to be able to go again and get a winner. Obviously they couldn't in the 90 minutes, but then as extra time went on, they got that pretty late goal in the final 5 minutes. The third period or fourth period of the game, you could call it, second half extra time, but to avoid penalties, which Mirren have been really good at recently. But yeah, I would, I think it, like Celtic, St Mirren didn't play great, but the sort of favourites prevail, and that's what matters to Stephen Robinson. And I think the League Cup was tied with some excellent performances against some really big opposition and some of the what we'd say the best teams in Scotland. Maybe that Scottish Cup run carrying on from the last round is going to be less good performances against sort of lesser opposition, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if you've got you make it to the final. That's where Stephen Robinson will be aiming for, and if he was to manage to guide St Mirren to a cup double, then I think he would go. Well, he's already in the St Mirren history books, but I think the league disappointment this season would certainly be buried if he could do that. So yeah, they're in the hat for the next round, and there's only obviously going to be 8 teams left, and a few big Premiership sides knocked out as well. So yeah, St Mirren have certainly got a chance, and that's all that matters, and that's what they done on Friday night by getting the win.
I'm not going to. I'm going to say I'm not going to cut is in the slack to St Mirren here. I might actually do, but do you think it would take a lot of the players by just playing a high-profile game and against the top of the league on Tuesday night against Hearts to go on and Friday night against a kind of the important game for your season in the Scottish Cup?
Yeah, I think it probably does, despite them having the extra man, and you may think, oh, well, that means they need to exert less energy and stuff like that. It also would have took a lot out of them psychologically. Obviously, they would have been confident. You beat what's this season been the best team in Scotland, and you've got to take confidence from that. But the same problems were there, really. They were struggling to score in front of goal, and a lot of those players need to find their shooting boots, and possibly the same problem here. I didn't watch the game, but from looking at the stats, which these stats aren't very reliable. 15 shots, 7 on target. That seems enough to score. More than waiting until extra time to find a winner. But sometimes that's how the game just falls. And obviously we've seen not the exact same story, but similar in the Celtic game where they're the favourites and they've had most of the chances without playing too great, and then it takes them until extra time to get that winner. So yeah, it's good that we're seeing close games that really go down to the wire, because that's what the Scottish Cup's about. We want to see the teams in the lower divisions that don't have many expectations competing with the sides in the Premiership, because it makes for a better competition and a more entertaining one, rather than which Rangers winning 8-0, which of course is always a possibility to happen, but yeah, I think these close games are always more entertaining, and why the Scottish Cup has upsets and why everybody tunes in and gets so excited. Well, not everyone, because I know some people aren't too excited about the Scottish Cup and stuff like that, but that's certainly why I enjoy it so much.
Yeah, and for Airdrie, I mean, where does that leave them in terms of the rest of the season? They're kind of not doing too well in the Championship at the moment.
Yeah, I would put that. I would maybe said I was maybe a bit harsh on Queen's Park before, saying that I'd really worry. Well, I would still really worry for them if they lost to Ross County in back-to-back league games. But Airdrie aren't far away. They're and they played 2 more games than Queen's Park, and they're only 2 points ahead of them. So yeah, I think they need to start picking up points on a regular basis as well. It's so difficult in the Championship. It's so tight. You look, there's only 11 points between rock bottom, Queen's Park, and playoff place, Ayr United. So yeah, there's still a lot to play for in the Championship, and it's going to be really entertaining, that relegation race, as well as the title race between the top 2, and then if any teams like a Dunfermline or Raith Rovers or maybe even a Greenock Morton want to try and push Ayr United out that final playoff spot as well. So yeah, there's still a lot to play for in the Championship, and Airdrie are one of the teams that will be most concerned, because they're obviously their fate in the division is at risk.
Yeah, and we always say in the show, like, football should never be played in artificial parks. But if you were watching the game, Ethan, and you didn't know that was a a plastic surface. It's one of the better ones.
Yeah, it is. I've been to the Excelsior Stadium a few times, and it's a good quality surface, and just unfortunately the game maybe didn't turn out the way that it could have done, and could have been more goals, could have been more entertaining, but it was very tightly contested between two teams who probably are on the highest of confidences, considering their league places, and don't want to make a mistake, and that's sometimes what happens in Scottish Cup games. It's but teams refusing to take risks, and then it can happen like this. But we got 3 goals, so not the worst. And every game's had goals so far. No penalty shootouts as of yet either. I've certainly jinxed that now for the later kickoff, but a good cup tie between two teams struggling in their own divisions, but it gives them both the opportunity to get a distraction from that, and for St Mirren to progress to the next round, and maybe go for a Scottish Cup and a Scottish League Cup and Scottish Cup double, as I said.
And also we've got 2 championship teams going to the 2 championships going into the draw. We'll talk about the Packet Thistle game in a minute or two. Big win for Dunfermline yesterday. Neil Lennon side won 2-0 at home, and apparently I never saw this game, but apparently Dunfermline was booed over at half time by winning the game. Now, I don't know about you, Ethan, right, but this is actually like creeping into the game now, because at Hamgate on Wednesday night against Rangers and Kilmarnock, albeit Rangers weren't playing well, but they were still winning the game, and the fans still booed them over at half time. And the same yesterday happened at East End Park. So I mean, I could see the point if the team was getting beat at home, maybe like 2-0 or whatever, but they were winning the game at half time and they were still booing.
Yeah, no, I found that absolutely crazy when I seen it the other day, and I've seen a few sort of things like that, and I think people forget that football is a game that it's ever changing. You can't expect a team to play well every single game and win every single game in a convincing fashion. And if you did expect that, then what is the point? Because it just takes the whole entertainment out of the sport. The fact of nearly losing a game, or nearly dropping points, or nearly dropping out the Scottish Cup's all part of the entertainment of supporting your team. And I've never understood. I think I've said this before on here. I've never understood booing your own players. I understand everybody's well entitled. They pay their money to go to the football, and they're well entitled to give their opinion on it. But yeah, I found that really strange. And then again with Dunfermline, I heard Neil Lennon was saying that a lot of people were telling him that they hadn't played too well, but at the end of the day, they won 2-0 and they're through the next round as a championship team, as you said, and it's excellent for a championship side to make it to the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup, and they'll be hoping that maybe they get another championship side in the next round, and they can possibly maybe go to get a trip to Hampden, which would be excellent for Neil Lennon. So yeah, he won't care. Obviously, not ideal. He brings Chris Kane on at half time, and he's the player who scores the 2 goals in the final 15 minutes against a team in an inferior division. But it's not always a formality with these things, as we know. And you remember, it took Celtic until the final 5 minutes of the game to clinch a second goal against sixth division Auchinleck Talbot.
Yeah,
it's not. You can't ever just expect your team to beat every team that's in front of them. You can expect them to beat every team that's in front of them, but you can't expect them to beat every team easily and then have a moan when it's not really going your way. I just don't really understand that. I've seen at Celtic Park before as well, and I seen somebody actually, I think, was saying that online that the Celtic fans should have been booing or not celebrating at the end of the game against Dundee because the performance wasn't good. And I just think, why? That's just silly to me. And yeah, I don't understand it. But
Is that like saying, or maybe I'm being a bit too dramatic here, even, but is that like saying the Rangers fancy boo Rangers off to game when they were 1-5 at half time?
Yeah, yeah, I know, but yeah, I know. I don't understand it. It's what would somebody would say. Somebody would probably find a way to say, "Oh, yeah, we're booing them at half time because they lost the last time and the performance wasn't as good as this the last time."
Yeah.
Some people always try and find the negatives, but at the end of the day, the main thing is winning, especially in the Scottish Cup. It doesn't matter how well you play throughout the competition; you just need to beat the other teams to get to the final. And we've seen that plenty of times in the past, that teams that have not been the best team or not played very well throughout the tournament have won tournaments. You see it all the time. It doesn't happen in the league usually. You usually don't see a bad team win the league. It's usually the best team that wins the league, and that's why leagues are usually the most difficult thing to win. But yeah, I think that's it's something that I don't like, and I think it should be. Well, it's not going to be taken out of the game because it's something that's developing in the game. But yeah, it's something that I've never really understood, and I don't think I ever will.
You were saying about Glenfermin might be going against a championship team, but they might be going against a Premiership team as well, because don't forget, Hibs went there in the last round and beat them.
Yeah, of course, it's the excellent point you make, and they'll be confident they can beat any team in this that's left in. Obviously, I think everybody. I don't think anybody would want, maybe Rangers and Celtic fans, but I don't think anyone else would want Rangers or Celtic in the next round, because obviously they're the favourites to win the whole thing. I know they haven't played yet, and because Aberdeen's pitch, like Dundee in that area, seems to be really struggling with weather at the minute. Obviously, we've had 4 postponements now between Aberdeen and the pair of Dundee clubs over the last few days, which is unfortunate. But when that game does come around, I expect Motherwell to win that, and I think teams would want to avoid Motherwell as well, because I don't see them really losing to. I don't see them losing to the best of the Premiership sides at the minute. Never mind losing to a Championship team, but that's it. These things happen. I don't think many people had Hibs down to lose to Dunfermline. I'm sure some people did, and credit to them, but that's why it makes the shocks good when they come out of nowhere. And as you said, Neil Lennon will be confident that his players can turn a result out in this competition against any of the teams. But I think he said it when he was on Premier Sports, the Celtic game in the last round. There is teams he wants to avoid, and rightfully so.
And another team that maybe Celtic and Rangers and the rest of the teams would like to involve with is Partick Thistle, because they went away from Muskegee, albeit it was a brilliant support. Partick Thistle took up as well. I don't know if you saw the buses and social media of the buses even for whole like at 8 o'clock in the morning and all that to go up to Elgin City. Final score Elgin City 2, Partick Thistle 3, and like you wouldn't have put this down to a kind of goal fest, a kind of end-to-end cup tie, but I mean that's what it ended up like.
Yeah, it's a team sort of down towards the bottom end of League Two against one of the teams looking to be in the Scottish Premiership next season. And yeah, you wouldn't have really put it down to be that way, but it was a end-to-end game. Partick Thistle led twice, and Elgin City paid them back, and then obviously Ben Stanley gets the winner with 10 minutes to go. So yeah, for Partick Thistle, like Dunfermline, they might have not played the best, shipping 2 goals, but they get the result in the end, and that's all that matters. And Partick Thistle now, like Dunfermline, 1 game away from a trip to Hampden. And as we said, we've seen, I think I said a few weeks ago, maybe when we were talking about the last round of the Scottish Cup, we've seen Championship teams get to Hampden in recent, and get to even Scottish Cup finals in recent history. So it's not out of the realms of possibility for these sides. And yeah, Mark Wilson keeps doing an excellent job there, and a lot of people doubted him going into the season that he could replicate what himself and Brian Graham done last season and getting Partick Thistle to the playoffs. But I think he's probably went one better so far in the fact that they're so close, like contesting St Johnstone for that title, despite St Johnstone looked like they were going to run away with it in the early stages.
Yeah, and that could go on the boost Partick Thistle's confidence as well, because they were hoping for a home draw game to help the coffers in the next round. And also, if they won that one, then the semi-final, and also they're going for, as you say, Premiership status as well.
Yeah, exactly that, and it's not an easy place to go, I'd imagine. Elgin, and I don't know what the pitch is like and stuff like that, but they got the result in the end, and that's what matters, and that'll keep the confidence within that squad. And they've been on a really excellent run recently. Obviously got that big late goal from Ocean Smith at McDermott Park to scrape a point and make sure St Johnstone didn't make up pull away from them in that way. So yeah, it's been an excellent season for the Jags, and they'll be looking to continue it into the latter stages of the Scottish Cup, as well as winning the Scottish Championship and guaranteeing promotion back to the big league.
There you go then, Mac. The Scottish Cup round up for you. We, of course, there's one more game to be played. I can't remember of all my years remembering the Scottish Cup games. I can't remember there's been a 7:30 kickoff game in the Sunday night. It seems a bit weird, but hey, that's the world we live in. It's Skinner's Muir, or as they call it, Skinny, against Falkirk with a 7:30 kickoff. And then we'll find out about the draw, who will get each other in the next round of the Scottish Cup. There you go. That is your roundup of the weekend. Thanks to Ethan for joining us this afternoon. We'll be back next midweek because there's a full card. Tuesday we've got the Edinburgh Derby, and then Wednesday we've got the big games. Celtic against Livingston, and we have got Murrow against Rangers, and it all kicks off again. And so it's one of the ones Scottish football keeps on giving at the moment, and we love it. So keep on watching us on the Scottish Football Zone. If you haven't, you can like and subscribe to the channel on the Scottish Football Zone. And remember, one more game to make Skinra. Skinner's Muir, there you go, off again. Skinner's Muir against Falkirk, 7:30 kickoff.
You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.